with you," was all they said as they watched their brother. He nodded. His hand shook less. It made him feel like a damn child, but just having Am there gave him strength. With it, he was able to dial the phone. Though that strength had gotten him so far, every ring caused a wave of nausea. Finally, Miss Elders answered. She had been crying, and in the background, the husband spoke up with some sense of hope. "Is it him?" There was a hint of anger in his words, too. The wife cleared her throat. "Hello, Dr. Emmers?" While he wanted to hang up, he found his resolve and answered. Mrs. Emmers, or excuse me, Mrs. Elders, we need to talk. Percy and Am stood outside the Elders' house, just beyond their spiky metal fence, observing it from the sidewalk. It was just an average split level with vinyl siding. The light from the window beamed down on them and gave it a sense of the ominous. Percy was indeed afraid to get any closer, but Am was with him, and after a long pause, he crossed through the fence and headed up the walkway to the front door. Catherine answered. Her face was puffy, her hair was ratty, and her lips were pursed as though still holding back tears. She was an obvious mess, but held a twinkle of hope in her eye, now that Percy was there. "Miss Elders, this is my sibling Amaranth. They're here to help me with your daughter. I hope you can place your trust in them as you have placed your trust in me." He lifted his hands and gestured at Am, who waved back. "You've got a lot of nerve talking about trust, pal." Paul practically erupted onto the scene, wrenching open the door the rest of the way. He, too, was puffy around the eyes, and his mustache was matted with mucus. He very much looked like a man who wanted to knock Percy on his ass. Am stood by their brother with a calm look that also just dared try it. "Paul, please," Miss Elders begged, her eyes welling up. "No, you're right. I deserve that. But I believe I at least owe you an explanation," Percy replied calmly. "Please, what I have to tell you is very important." He held up his digital recorder from the office. "You both need to listen to this." They sat and listened to the audio recording, gathering around a glass-top coffee table in the warm light of the Elders' living room. The Elders' expression changed from despair to shock, then anger, then back again. "Who was that? Who was in there with you?" Miss Elders took the lead, her hand up slightly over her mouth. "Did you see anyone else in the office?" Percy posed it as a rhetorical question. "I don't understand. Who was that? Who was manipulating my daughter?" She begged him to answer. "At this point, we're starting to ask the question, what has been manipulating your daughter?" Oh shit, that was Am. "At this point, we're starting to ask the question, what was manipulating your daughter?" Am felt more comfortable to provide an answer than Percy. "I'm sorry, but what on earth are you getting at?" Mr. Elders had anger in his voice. He was cooperating, but only just barely. "Didn't you go into my office to collect your daughter?" Percy asked. "I'm sure you would have seen someone standing there, and if you did, feel free to fill in the blanks. It would put my mind at great ease to know that this threat is tangible." "This is absolutely outrageous," Mr. Elders belted out. "Paul," his wife tried to interject. "No, this is nonsense!" He cut her off, his tone rising. "I have a feeling you're not as convinced as you sound, Percy continued. I know if something like that had a hold of my loved ones, I would have seen many strange things I didn't want to believe and couldn't explain. Many things you've written off because you just didn't want to confront them. Paul shot up and pointed out to the door. Get out! If you really want to deal with this on your own, oh, that's Am again. If you really want to deal with this on your own, we'll be happy to leave. Amaranth stood up casually. To Percy, their bluff was obvious. I can tell you're afraid, but you don't have to face this on your own. Percy remained seated. Get out! He repeated at the top of his lungs. Paul, Miss Elders interjected again. This is insane! He turned to her and screamed. Paul, please. Her tearing eyes did more to beg than her words. Amaranth could swear at that moment they heard the steps at the top of the stairs creak. Their eyes glanced over and caught a shadow disappear upstairs. Paul looked like a cornered animal about to lash out. After a tense moment, he all but collapsed, plopping down on the couch. Again, the air between the four settled into a tense waiting. Am sat back down and folded her hands over her lap. I'm going to make some tea. Miss Elder's voice cracked and quivered slightly, but she stood up, patted herself down, and left for the kitchen. Mr. Elder spoke up next. I'd heard the voice before, in whispers. His words were cold. I mean, I heard her talking to herself before. Didn't think anything of it. Children play, you know? But then the strange behavioral problems started, so I started paying more attention. I mean, that's what a good father does, right? But it wasn't just once. I thought I heard it in whispers throughout the house. I thought I was nuts. I even thought that Percy's problem might have been my own fault, like genetics or something. Like maybe I had it in my whole life and just got on without even really taking notice. But the voice... There was a pause, and Percy patiently waited for him to speak. There was an ominous atmosphere around the conversation that now filled the house, and surely Persia and Simon had heard the father just now, yelling at the top of his lungs. He paused again, can't process it. This can't be real. This can't be real. Mr. Elders, Paul, Percy said, trying to be comforting. About 6 hours ago, when you were in my office, I'm sure you noticed that I wet myself. Now, I can't imagine how this feels to you as a father, but please understand, I'm right along there with you. I played it over and over in my head, and I still can't accept it. Its very nature shakes me to my core in a profound way. And just maybe we're both lunatics, and this is all a shared delusion. But in order for us to deal with that, we must first confront the possibility that your child is under the control of some outside force. Much as protecting their child from tangible terrors of the world was a staggering process. Adding the intangible was simply overpowering. Paul started to cry. Paul, Percy began again. Like you, I need to know if this is real or if there is some rational explanation. That knowledge is the only thing that's going to save your daughter. Otherworldly or not, the only thing that can help us are the facts, and we can't bridge those without establishing the reality we're currently dealing with. So, what, do we call a priest? He was being sarcastic as he wiped away his tears. You're not the first one to suggest it, Percy smiled warmly. We honestly won't know until we know this is real. What do